So I've been with Seattle Police for almost 23 years now. I cut my teeth here in the North End. I started as patrol officer in Fremont, and I worked every shift in every neighborhood of the North End for about 14 years. I've served as an internal investigator for the Office of Professional Accountability for 3 years. I served as the Equal Employment Opportunity Investigator for the Seattle Police Department, enforcing racial discrimination and sexual harassment issues for the police department. After that, I worked as a detective in the domestic violence unit for a couple of years, and I worked with the community police team up here in the North End for a couple of years, a long time ago. Since the inception of the Force Investigation Team in 2014, when it was first formed under the consent decree under the Department of Justice, I've been acting as the assistant commander since the unit was formed. I'll get more into the team in a second, but I want to recap for those of you that don't have many of the details that we tried to put out to the news. Some of you may know this already, but so on February 21st, at a little before 4 o'clock, officers were at the general intersection of 85th and 21st Northeast. The officers were on a surveillance operation that had nothing to do with Mr. Taylor. By coincidence, Mr. Taylor showed up at the scene and was recognized on site by the officers who had met him in the past, so they knew him by name. When he got out of the vehicle, he was wearing a firearm on his hip. At least this is the information we have at this point. And again, I want to preface that that's the information that we have to this point. The investigation is ongoing. Facts may change as we develop new witnesses or new evidence that shows up from the scene and from our investigation. Mr. Taylor was recognized, and he had a firearm on his hip in a holster.
Supposedly had a firearm.
Okay, this is the information we have at this time. And so please let me finish. And if any of you would like to talk to me briefly afterwards outside, I'd be glad to wait outside and talk to a few of you personally. Okay? I do have limited time because the city's only allotted a certain amount of overtime to show up here. But the officers described that there was a holster on his hip. They recognized him as in possession of a firearm. It was released in the news that he was a felon. That wasn't released to slander anyone. That was an element of the crime, a felon in possession of a firearm. That was the reason for the officers to make contact in order to attempt to arrest him. Things went bad, as you saw in the news release, and it resulted in the shooting. After he was shot and during his medical care, the narcotics were discovered that you may have seen on the news, that he had narcotics on his person. Another subject from the vehicle was also arrested for possession of narcotics from the scene and put into jail that night. So that's in a nutshell what we have at this time. I can tell you we're actively working leads. I can't give you more than we've already publicly released because we don't want to jeopardize or compromise anyone's recollections or any information that's out there. If we start putting more stuff out, there's always the risk that you contaminate other people's memories.
The public, especially, people and our children even that watch this video, is wondering how did they know he had a firearm? I mean, that fast of action.
And do you have to kill him because he has a firearm?
And then on top of it, you worked in internal investigations for many years. So how many officers have you investigated for racial?
For like racial bias or things like that?
Anything.
I'm trying to remember. I had hundreds of cases in OPA. I have to remember off the top of my head how many were racial bias. I mean, it wasn't an uncommon complaint. So I really couldn't guess. I can tell you that several officers don't have a job here because of my time at the Office for Professional Accountability. My direct work fired officers that I caught lying, officers that I caught drinking on duty.
Any racial?
Racial bias cases. I don't know that I had any that were sustained. There were some sustained while I was in the Office of Professional Accountability. It's kind of luck of the draw. I don't take cases. I got them assigned by my boss at the time. You take this one, and the bosses may give you ones that you have more expertise in. Like for example, if an officer was stealing, we had an investigator that was better at financial crimes, and he would get all those. So things like that. So I don't remember having any of those myself. So I'm sorry. I want to try and stay in order. Yes.
Did the officers identify themselves?
The information we have is the officers identified themselves. Seattle Police, get down. That's the information we have right now. Like I said, all of this stuff is preliminary. I have more information that I can't give you. I wish I could just tell you everything about the case because That's my nature. I want to tell you all the evidence we have, but at the same time, I have to not jeopardize the case, because potentially we could put out something and then change someone's memory, or someone could come out of the woodwork and try and undermine our completion of the case by saying, well, yeah, here's what else we have. We follow every lead we have. We follow every lead we have. Sorry.
There was actually a custody question someone had asked about, like, what the process.
Oh, with the officer, yeah, I didn't get a chance to finish it, and this is, if I can finish the question. So the officers are ordered by supervisors at the scene to be separated. That's a standing order now that we do. We follow up on that. When they don't do it, they get written up by the Force Review Board. It used to happen when we first started that the officers, supervisors did.
Were these officers separated?
I'm sorry?
Were these officers separated?
Yes, they were separated. They are assigned a guard. That's another officer that wasn't at the scene. It has to be someone uninvolved that guards them.
Are they someone that doesn't know them? Or are they someone who's...
That's kind of hard depending on the scene, because, but it's someone that isn't going to be a witness or in no way is connected with the case, because we don't want that contamination that they give a story to someone that we're going to interview. It's people that we verified weren't part of the incident. So they would have no way of saying, oh, well, that's, I saw exactly the same story I heard from this officer. So,
Is their gun taken away immediately?
no, there's a contract right with the Police Officers Guild that the officers will not be unarmed while they're on duty. So their gun is, well, that gun is taken away in the shooting, but they're given a replacement gun.
Is it taken away immediately?
It's preserved as soon as we can. As soon as we can, and that varies from scene to scene.
Who
So
takes it and when?
it's us. We take it as soon as we can, and
And
we
how
replace
fast do you
it.
take it when it's involved in a shooting?
I'm sorry?
And how fast do you take it when it's involved in a shooting?
It depends on each particular scene. It depends on the scene, and as long as it's preserved and locked down where we have them not under observation and it's in their holster, we're not super concerned with getting it right away because we can observe them and see that it's locked down in their holster. Some scenes, we need to bring a gun out to the scene. Some scenes, we take them with escort down to our office and we exchange it. It all depends. In this scene, we seize the guns at the scene. Right upon our arrival. The first supervisor scene had them lock up the guns in a safe, and so we pulled them out of the safe and took them.
Let me just say.
I'm sorry,
Let her say.
but this lady's been really patient for a long time.
I just wondered if you can finish the chain of custody. Can you speak specifically to the sorts of protections granted to police officers via their being a part of the Police Officers Guild? I know there's some very specific things that make the way in which you investigate the shooting from a police officer of a citizen very different from what happens if I were to shoot somebody. So can you speak to those protections that are granted them as
There's not a whole lot of difference other than, like I said, the contract says that they're allowed to stay armed as long as they're on the clock. As long as they're on pay time, we can't take away their gun and leave them without a gun. Like if we suspend them, they're without a gun. But they have the right to attorney, the same as you would at a scene. The attorney depends on how fast it takes for an attorney to be contacted and reached. When I used to do criminal investigations, a lot of times people that were arrested as suspects in a crime would take longer to get an attorney because they didn't have one or they didn't know one. Because of the advantage of being part of a union that deals with this kind of thing, there's...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There was one report where one officer was saying, because you said it was a firearm or he was carrying a gun.
Mhm.
So exactly when was the gun retrieved from him? Because I think at one point they said that they got the gun from him at the hospital.
No, I don't know where that information would have come from. We recovered the gun with the search warrant on the car after
Search for what car?
Yeah.
the car that was in
The white
That wasn't his
Taurus?
car.
Yes, that's why we had to get a search warrant. So I don't want to get into too much detail. The force investigation team, along with the crime scene investigators, recovered the gun. Okay.
In the car.
And so,
In the vehicle.
so,
Yep. Yep.
Hold on.
okay.
I retrieved the weapon from the car that he was getting out of.
Okay. I can't comment on what I'm allowed to in this case. So, as I said before,
Oh, the second question I had was about the suspicious vehicle. I know that there is,
I don't know where that came from. When I read that in the news, that was news to me. I don't know who put that out or where that information came from. There was never a suspicious vehicle. I don't know where
The
they're.
captain said that. On TV, we have it. I have it.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes I can't control the captain that goes and talks.
And how no one ever wanted to correct it?
But I can refer you back to the news about the charges that.
We didn't get to see it. I want to know the charges that filed so many officers onto one man.
Yes.
Please.
Oh, you're talking about what?
What did he
What this
do?
arrest was for? Okay,
Yes.
this arrest was for a felon in possession of
Was
firearm.
he getting arrested, is what you're saying?
Yes, the officers were attempting to arrest him for felon in possession of a firearm, which is a felony. I'm sorry.
I wish that would have happened.
I wish it would have happened too.
Wait, hold on. No. So we know. It was because he was holding a firearm, correct? That's what you're saying, a felon holding a firearm.
Let him finish.
Felon in possession of a firearm.
Okay. On what case of firearm did he have? And please describe in detail the firearm and the holster for me.
Okay,
Please.
they were publicly released on the website.
I didn't get to see the website. I want to know from
Okay,
you.
and it's in all the news. I can't
If it's
really
public
describe.
information, you can.
No,
I'm an attorney, you can't.
what I'm telling you is there are photos that show the
Maybe
gun
you need to
and the
understand
time.
his son doesn't live here, so he doesn't know that.
No, I'm understanding. Yeah, Detective Cordell will show you pictures that were released of the firearm and the holster.
Where was this firearm? Can you clarify that? Was it on his person?
The officers described that the firearm was on his person. Okay, I can't get into too much detail because it's an active case, but let me explain. If I can finish the sentence, I can, it might make more sense. So, the officers
I got him on too.
state that they saw your father with the firearm on his hip in a holster. And they recognized him by name, that they knew him from whatever contacts they'd had with him in the past. They knew him on sight. He was wearing a holster with a firearm, and they attempted to arrest him for felon in possession of a firearm because his criminal history showed that he was a felon.
So-
He didn't have his rights reinstated. They knew that for a fact, but he didn't have any rights reinstated.
The officers had information that if he were caught in possession of a firearm, that he would be prosecuted with a very high level offense.
So
I can't give you specific details.
They accidentally rolled up on him. They were doing something else.
They
They
didn't
rolled up
roll-
on him, then knew that he was a felon and didn't have his rights. That's what you're saying right now. They just knew it.
He did not have the right to have a firearm.
No, but you're saying officers were doing A, saw him over here at B, then knew instantly that he didn't have the rights to a firearm
You've-
off the bat.
You're
You're talking so